Sci-fi, futuristic user interfaces have always fascinated me, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to design this in Figma. And we're also going to use the assistance of two different AI tools, one of which you probably don't know about, in order to create this design. So let's get started. If you enjoyed this video, check out DesignCourse.com where you can learn UI, UX, CSS, and more with my custom interactive platform that makes learning fun and easy. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to do, here I am in Figma, by the way, and I have like a desktop frame or layout that we're going to get started with. The first thing I want to do though with this, since this is kind of like a landing page for kind of like a sci-fi feel, is to have a central asset that we're going to create first, and then we'll base the rest of that layout around that asset, if that makes sense. So basically, I went to Midjourney. All right, and here in Midjourney, I decided to give a prompt: abstract, vibrant graphic design of human face with TV scan lines, version 5, AR16.9, and Chaos 20. Chaos 20 will just give us more different results for each of the four panels here. And I ended up settling on this one. I really like this one, even though it's a little bit too wide, but we can just fix that. So I up-resed, or actually I created variations of this, and ultimately I up-res this one. And I took this one into Photoshop just to kind of blur out the sides of the face, so it kind of like blends in with the background. But that's ultimately the one that I chose. All right, so here is that asset. And essentially, we want to take the background and match the color with this. So I'm gonna grab this background color right here. And there we go. Now it is pretty much seamless. You know, I took it into Photoshop, modified it a little bit. And of course, this will be made into a subtle video where it's kind of just shifting back and forth. But we'll get to that part later on in the video tutorial. So now at this point, let's go ahead and actually work on the layout. Another thing I want to add here is kind of like a glow behind this element. And to do that, we'll just take the ellipse tool, kind of come somewhere around the center, and just make this pretty large. So I'll hold Shift Alt, scale out, and then in our fill, we're going to change this to radial. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and take this first color picker right here. See if you can kind of see it here. I'm going to get into the blues or so, and then we're also going to do the same thing with the other one. And we could just grab the background color right here. Now, of course, we want to adjust this. We'll put this down beneath. Actually, we'll put it above. And we're going to give this a specific pass-through so that we can kind of see everything that's happening here. I'm going to keep going down. I'm just hovering over to see what this essentially looks like. That's actually pretty cool. I like that, but we lose some of the color. I'm actually going to switch over to my original project to see exactly how I did this. Okay, and I actually had made it much bigger, and yeah, basically radial, same thing, except you're using saturation for the color, and that looks pretty solid right there. All right, so we are going to want to go ahead and lock that because it's easy to select that whole thing. We can lock this as well. All right. So now we can't select anything, and at this point, let's just get started with a basic UI. So the aesthetics of like a futuristic user interface is a lot of borders, a lot of small, fine details. So with that said, I'm going to take the rectangle, and we're just going to kind of frame with a little bit of white space inside the entire layout like this, and then we're going to get rid of the fill and give it a stroke. Now for the stroke, we want this to be very subtle. So we can grab the background color that it's currently on. And yes, there is color there, as we can see a little bit of color pushed up. We're going to make this just a little bit lighter. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's real light. Okay, outside of that, again, might as well go ahead and lock this. We're gonna go ahead and also kind of do little corner borders with the pen tool. So left click, hold Shift, and holding Shift will keep it constrained to perfect like 90 degree or 180 degree angle. Left click again, and then we'll have a corner. Hit Escape, take this stroke and just make it white. You don't have to make it all white, but I do want it to be higher contrasting. So it's just a very fine element, and we could probably double click into this, make this bottom one a little bit more so. All right, so we'll take that, and now we're just going to duplicate it. So I'm going to hold Alt, Shift, drag down. We'll go all the way to the bottom here, and then we'll go ahead and rotate this holding Shift. All right, we'll take both of these. We'll go ahead and Alt, Shift, and move over, right click, flip horizontal. Awesome. Now we can take these four and group them up. So Control G, they're all now a group. Alrighty, awesome. And by the way, this ellipse is not even in our desktop, so we'll want to fix that. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and get a logo on. All right, we're gonna call this Synthetic Now. Font, I kind of like BBOS for this type of aesthetic. It works well in my opinion. Let's see what the size is. It's pretty small there, but there's a lot of small types sometimes with these futuristic UIs. We could probably go like the 22 or so, or even larger. It all depends on what you want. I think that's good right there. Now, like I said, a lot of tiny, fine detail when it comes to these types of UIs. So I'm going to take the line tool, or L on your keyboard, and we're just going to kind of like go from there to there. Of course, we need to make this white. And this is kind of just creating a sort of parallel with the width of the logo, which is a cool sort of like interesting aesthetic. So I'm also going to bump up the not the opacity, but the thickness of the stroke just a little bit right there. And we could do the same sort of thing for a actual navigation. So I just took both of those, Shift Alt, pushed them over. This one will be home. Or actually, I'm not going to use home. I'm just going to use event info. I'm so sick of using home all the time. Typically, it's something you do want to do for UX purposes. People expect a home button. Anyhow, move this over. This is going to be tickets. Now, of course, if this were for a real project, you would want to put these into components and put them into auto layout, but I can, just for demonstration purposes, I can iterate much faster without having to do that sort of thing. So I'm just going to get these all lined up. All right, and then finally we'll do contact here and then make this match. Now we can make these a different color just for a different look. And so the color that we could use is, we could probably grab something from here. I mean, we could go purple with it, like pinkish. I'm not sure if I like that though. Let's do like a blue. We'll get this very light blue color, like right there. All right. Awesome, I think that works pretty well. Take this stuff and just move it over. We want equal white space from the right and left based on, like if we took the rectangle tool, and of course you could use a layout grid for this. Put this like right here, and there it goes. It's like basically perfect. I eyeballed it pretty well. Okay, now let's get on one of my favorite parts of UIs is the headline. A big, beefy, juicy headline. Fibrous. Initially, I'd spelled that wrong, but I think that's the right way to spell it. Now, of course, we want this to be big, really big. That's like 140 right there. All right, fibrous. Future. I just kind of made that up. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take the fill, get rid of the fill, give it a stroke. And this I'm doing just to make it a little bit more interesting. 2 for the stroke weight would be good. I kind of want to do like a kind of like a cool sort of connection between the two. So we're going to take the ellipse tool, kind of like a prototype connection that you would see in Figma here. So again, we'll make this white, make it size 3, I suppose. Put this one down here, hold Alt, drag over. For now, I'm going to leave this right here. Before I'm going to actually drag a connection between these. I think I might move this over. Move this over. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a little bit of sub headline. So I'm going to left click and drag. Now I'm going to use a different font for this. I think we'll just use Poppins. Again, one of my favorite fonts here. We're going to go small with this, real small. With these futuristic sci-fi sort of user interfaces, there's a lot of small type, but obviously if this is a real use case, you don't want to go like less than, I would say, size like 14 or so for type that needs to be read. Now, of course, you can have decorative type that's really tiny and that kind of fits with the aesthetic, and I think we can mess with that. I'm going to say the transhumanism event has arrived. Will you be ready to merge with the AI? Okay, very exciting. This is a joke right now, but I'm sure in like 2 years we'll be ready. The speed at which things are moving. All right, so that looks cool. I like, this is a very well-defined visual hierarchy, typographic visual hierarchy. Just look how large and different type of font this is and bold, and then look how small this is. So very good visual hierarchy. All right, so next up, I want to have an extra background pattern that's going around here, and the way I'm going to do this, and it's going to be like a dot grid sort of thing. So the way I'm going to do this is just hit this a bunch of times, my period key, and then we are going to take this and just extend it out like crazy, the tracking or the line height. Then what we can do is just take this, we can shift it down, then we'll just do that again. Take these, shift it down. Now, Adobe XD had a really cool, or has a really cool feature called repeat layout, and that would make this a lot easier. But again, this doesn't take that long. So now I can just take all these, push them up. Oops, I don't want to. I was selecting something there that I didn't want to. Okay, we'll have to do this one more time, so just group this all up. Let's see if we, yep, that's all that we have there. We don't have to like make it the entire size, so we could do just something like this. That's cool. I actually kind of like this. Originally I was going to have these dots behind, but I actually kind of like this. But I'm not going to have it 100% opacity, maybe something like 20. There we go. And then I'll just go ahead and lock that. So now this tiny, these tiny elements will really just kind of add to the overall effect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we will have kind of an area here in the middle where we have an email collection. So I'm going to take this, we're going to type in enter your name. Don't want that extended letter spacing, 0. And again, we'll use BBoss for that. And we're going to make this larger, maybe like 30. Okay, and then we'll do an underline style text field here. So I'm just grabbing that from the top. All right, and then we'll have a actual button. So we'll take this type. We're going to put in join the future. And this time we're going to have a, like I said, a actual button container that will go behind it. We're going to take these two in auto layout them and center that element there. Now for the background, let's see here. What we'll do is give it a blue color. And then for this type, we'll give it the background. There we go. All right, and that's looking pretty solid. And I think I'm going to make these a little bit larger. So enter your name will be over here, and we'll take this and push it right there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and push this stuff, all three of these elements down. So let's grab this. All right, and then I'm gonna grab one of our corners and just drag it over. I'm gonna take it outside of the group. There we go. And we're just gonna kind of frame this whole little section right here. Again, tiny details like this can definitely help the aesthetic of these kind of futuristic UIs. So now we'll take these two, Alt-Shift, move them over, right-click, flip horizontal. There we go. So it kind of frames this whole section. I kind of want these up higher. Oops. Come on, select both of them, Gary. What are you doing? All right, maybe move, maybe move this over to the right. Move these over to the left. All right, that's pretty good right there. I'm gonna have a couple more lines. So we're gonna have one that goes straight down the center like this. We'll make it white for now, but we're also gonna make it a linear gradient rather. So if I zoom up, I will take this first one. This is gonna be 100% white. This will be 100% white, but 0%. Now, what we need to do is here, let's get this out of the way. For this gradient, we want to make sure these are separated from each other. So this one's going to be here. Oops. I'm having a difficult time with this. There we go. That's what I want. Now we're just going to come here into center, or just center it up here with the centering options. And then we'll duplicate that, right-click, flip vertical, and just continue it down here. And then finally, we'll do that one more time, except we're not going to use a gradient this time. I think we'll just come out here. And again, this is just graphic design, really. It's just having fun with it. Right there. And look how quickly we were able to knock that out. Now, of course, if we click play, we don't have any interactivity. What really can make this cool, though, is utilizing a tool that will take this Midjourney image of this synthetic face and making it be able to move in a 3D realistic fashion. So to make it animate, there's a site called Leiapix.com. Just type that in and then it redirects you to convert.leiapix.com. And you want to click upload, and we want to select the actual face. So fibers right here, and there you go. It creates this kind of cool sort of 3D effect. And there's a bunch of different properties, as you can see right here, such as animation style, amount of motion, focal point, etc., etc., etc. Now, for me, the way I actually converted this to video, because I didn't see any way to export a video, which it probably is, I just did a screen recording with my screen recording program. You could use OBS or whatever. I use vMix, and then I took it into Adobe Adobe Premiere, and I just kind of cut out a frame of this section right here. So on the desktop, what this looks like is this video file right here, and it's the way I cut it is it's in such a way that it doesn't play long. It only does as long as it needs to, like before it needs to loop, because we're going to make it loop in Figma itself. All right, so I'm going to drag that video onto our project, and by the way, your project needs to be a part of a team project, which I think is a paid plan typically. So in order for you to utilize video in here in Figma, so just understand that. So now what I'm going to do is we need to unlock our image one. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to put this in here. Just drag it to the very bottom. All right. And I do want to take this and change this to a crop, because the original face was just not out there. Here we go. It was just too wide. That's better. All right, and then what we can do is, let's see here. Let's right click this and send to back. There we go. Now with it selected, we can go to prototype, and you just make sure that you have this option, autoplay, and it being looped. All right, and it looks pretty good. So let's go ahead, hit play. Actually, it's kind of screwing up. Let's hit play by closing that tab and just reopening it. And there you go. Kind of don't like it's being clicked at the bottom here, but that's no problem. Oh wait, one thing I wanted to do is draw a connection between these. So let's do that real quick. Just take the pen tool, come right there. Try to find the middle of this. Or what I could do is just go like this. There we go. Okay, so now with those connections drawn, you know, we can maybe beef it up a little bit. Make it the same size of 3. Yeah, something like that. All right, now let's close this, hit play, check out the final result. There we go. Look how cool that is. All right, awesome, awesome stuff. If you're interested in learning more of this type of thing, definitely check out DesignCourse.com, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.